So you were mentioning the fact of, doing like a culture assessment. And it happened to me sometimes that, I was asked to do a culture assessment in an organization. Then the leadership was seeing the results, often surprising. And actually, one of the things that often you realize is that actually your espoused values are not really present in the top values
Right.
of culture.
Yeah.
And there, what you should start doing is, starting to have dialogues within the organizations.
Right.
Said that, it happens that, the leaders, they like the results and they say, okay, what should we do about that? And they're not so keen in going into dialogue. And yes, they can do the first step, but in the end, they want to keep control. So how to get away of that?
Well, you can't if they're not willing to go there. They're scared. Basically, they're in fear of losing control. And what I found in life is you're actually not in control of very much. When you try to control everything, it's like, we have this expression in English, herding cats. Well, it's like you're trying to get a bunch of cats together and you can't. Well, that's the same with people. It's really hard. So that's why you have to have these values that people can respect, and they're all sharing the same value. Then they're heading in the same direction without you having to control anything. And so leading or managing becomes so much easier because everybody's working towards in the same direction. So the biggest issue in leadership is fear. Fear of losing power, fear of losing control. And the truth is that whatever you fear dominates you, and it undermines the possibility of creating a successful organization. A fear-driven culture will not perform.
So what should you do when you have a fear-driven culture with a fear-driven leader? Should you just say, you know what, there's nothing to do, or there's a way to?
Okay, so who is the you saying that?
You is like any person doing like our job, I would say.
Okay, anybody trying to do a cultural, I would walk away. I mean, why waste my time? Why do I want to waste my time working with a leader who doesn't get the fact that they're creating the reality in the organization, and the only way to change the reality is to change who they are. Organizational transformation begins with the personal transformation of the leaders. If the leaders aren't willing to go there, why waste your time?
Very clear.
I wouldn't bother.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to change the culture, you either the leaders have to change, or you have to change the leaders. It's as simple as that. They don't like that. I've been saying that for many years, and they just don't like me saying that, but it's true. If you're not going to change, then get out and get some people in who operate from a higher order values.
Who should lead within the organization the cultural transformation process? Who should be in charge of this? How to make it happen? Well,
there's only one answer to that, and that's the leader. You see, the leader creates the culture. And whatever the behavior of the leaders sets the tone for the culture. Now, the process could be managed by somebody else. It's somebody in the human resources or whatever. But it's actually the responsibility and the accountability for culture change rests with the leaders. And if it doesn't, again, you're going to fail. If you delegate that to the HR department, it's not going to work. You as a leader and the leadership team have to fully live what you're trying to create. And if you're not, again, failure. Waste of time, waste of money.
And I see that often, that HR is doing its best to, lead the process, but there's a disconnect with business and,
Well, and the problem is that HR think it's our responsibility, and they try to get the leaders involved, but they sometimes fail. And there has to be a strong message from HR saying, look, if you're not going to buy into this, why are we doing it?
Yeah. Well, often the HR is pushing to do these things, and in the end they say, okay, well, do it, but there's not necessarily a big belief in that.
Yeah, no, I've seen that happen. I worked with a hospital in England, and that's exactly what happened. They did a values assessment, they said all the right things, and they got results, and nothing happened. The leaders weren't interested in changing at all. They just wanted to tick the box. Oh, we've looked at our values.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm afraid that happens a lot.
Absolutely. Well, that's my limited experience, goes in that way as well. So I would like to close with a higher level question, okay, and somehow take an helicopter view. We're living in a world that actually, let's face it, we are like in the total middle of a climate crisis. Wars are, to the least happening. Inequalities are extremely growing. I was reading like the top 10 most rich people have a wealth that is equivalent to that of many, many countries put together. We have demography overpopulation. We have global power rebalance, just to name a few. So we live really honestly in a frightening context.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, what is your vision about the evolution of business and of society in general?